morning, everybody. We are here with a really good friend of mine, Ari Gunzburg. And man, first off, what an honor to have you here, Ari.
Thank
And
you.
today, Ari's going to be talking about transformative leadership. And I know he's got this great set of steps that I've heard a couple of times. Trust me, you're in for a treat. But just to give you a little quick background on who he is, Ari was only 10 years old when a teacher of his was unfortunately killed on a hike with his class out in the woods. And throughout his teenage years, Ari fell in with some tough groups. His life spiraled out of control, and it was a pretty rough couple of years. But through that school of hard knocks, he learned about perseverance and maintaining a positive outlook, and to embrace not just the challenges but the changes that come with these difficult times. And so when we were thinking about who to bring out to speak at Resilience 2020 today, I think it was pretty natural for us to have Ari. So without further ado, I want to introduce Ari. And just real quick, in the chat box on the right hand side of your screen, if you have any questions, there's a Q&A tab. Feel free to drop them in there and he'll get to them. And otherwise, you can definitely chat with the other people in here as well as with Ari in the chat box. Ari, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Dream as if you'll live forever. Live as if you'll die today. James Dean said those words, and unfortunately he died a little bit early. But these are words that bring up a concept that comes up in Pirkei Avos as well, right? I mean, repent one day before you die. But how do you know when you're going to die? You don't. So the idea is to constantly be living a life thinking, well, what if today was my last day on earth? What would be different if today was my last day on earth? You can always transform your leadership and your life by applying this concept to everything going on around you. You know, what is there? What would you do differently with your life if today was your last day on earth? Jake was talking before about resilience, and this has been a huge part of my life ever since this event that happened when I was 10 years old. I've had to remain resilient in the face of tremendous things, and it's it's made me think for years. And maybe it's just the PTSD. You know, don't ask the psychologist because they might tell you, you know, whatever it might actually be. But you know, what if today's my last day? What would be different? Like, is this the life that I really want to be living? And so it's a constant thought process and a constant way to evaluate your life. Is this really where I want to be? Is this really what I want to be doing? So leadership, what's great leadership? What does that mean? It could be so many different things, but there's so many things that it can't be. A leader cannot bring certain aspects to the table, but other things they have to bring to the table, or they're not truly a leader. They might be a dictator. They might be a boss. Let's look at some historic leaders briefly, and some leaders from my own life, and see some of the actions that they took. Let's talk about a big one. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses. Wow, right? He led the Jews for 40 years in the desert. He was selfless. He put the people ahead of him. And even at times, like right after the golden calf, when God sat there and said, forget these people, I'll just make you into the patriarch of a new nation. He sat there and he fought for them. That's leadership. Making the people, elevating them in your own eyes so that they are more important almost than yourself. I had a job a long time ago where it was an interesting situation. I had to take medication to somebody who was stuck out in the woods. And I flew out there as quickly as I could, and I got out and I was jogging into the woods, and it was up a mountain and it was up a hill, and I get to over there and I sit there and I have to strap into a rope, and I rappelled all the way down a cliff, and I chucked the medicine all the way over, and everybody was like, wow, that was amazing. But then later, when I was talking with the boss, I got berated for it. I got yelled at for it. Why would you do that? Because they needed that medication right away. That's not exemplifying a good leadership. do the right thing to save somebody's life. Why would you do that? That doesn't cause the people that you're working with you and underneath you to feel good about themselves. And that's what it's all about. And then the last example I want to bring up is Queen Esther. She was there for the Jews. She was there in so many different ways. And she was communicating with Mordecai and like, how are we going to solve this problem? And it got to a point where she recognized, I have to give up what I hold most dear in order to save everybody else, right? That's why if you're listening ever to the Megillah, when they are reading it, there's a point in the Megillah where he will sit there and sound almost like he's crying. They say in the Midrashim that Esther was married to Mordechai. And at the moment that she decided to go to the king Ahasuerus, that was the moment she lost him. And so that's when she sits there and she says, if it's going to save the Jews, what I've lost, I've lost. Leaders give up of themselves when and where they can. Do you see the difference? The great leaders, they put the people in front of them. They prioritize the people, not themselves. And they live lives that are more full. They accept the responsibility for all the people that they lead. How can we emulate these traits? How is it that we can integrate this great leadership into ourselves? It all starts with working towards greatness. But what does greatness mean? How do I find it? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about ways to find the greatness within you and to unlock it and bring it to the forefront. And also ways that you can sit there and use those same keys to greatness and bring them into your leadership style to be a better leader, to transform your leadership. Now, again, what is greatness? Everybody's got a different definition. To one guy, it might be a rock star. To another guy, the president. To another guy, a senator. To another guy, a movie star. Everybody is going to have their own definition, but even those definitions are irrelevant. Because the most important definition of greatness for what we're dealing with is, what do I consider great? What do you consider great? If you feel like the most important thing in your life is to be a good dad, or to be a good mom, or to be a good employee, whichever it is, to be a good leader, then as long as you actualize that thought process, as long as you actualize that goal, you're on your way to greatness. You're unlocking the greatness within yourself. Greatness is very subjective. It means whatever I want it to mean. And so if I create a definition of greatness and I work towards actualizing that, then I'm great in my own life, to my own self. And that's really the most important thing. We don't want to live somebody else's life. At the end of 120, we don't go up and God says, hey, why didn't you live Johnny's life? God sits there and says, why didn't you live your best life? That's our goal, is to live our best life, to elevate ourselves and to bring ourselves to the best possible person we can be. We were talking before about death. At the end of our lives, do we want people looking back on our lives and talking about how amazing we were, about the fantastic deeds that we were doing, about the way that we were helping people and all the amazing things that we did for the people around us, or talking about other stuff? I know what I would want. Now, when we're talking about the 5 keys to greatness, there's 2 main ingredients that everybody needs to bring to the table, that you always need to bring to the table in order to unlock each one of these keys. And those 2 main ingredients are passion and action. They rhyme. They're really fun to say. Passion and action. You can say it with me if you want. Maybe the people in the next room won't like it. But passion and action will enable you to unlock any one of these keys. If you're not fully passionate about what you're doing, you won't be able to put in the time and the effort to unlock the key. And if you don't put in the action, if you're just very passionate about it, but you don't do anything about it, nothing is doing. Nothing is going to change, right? It takes that action and it takes that passion together to unlock any one of these keys. Now, the 5 keys to greatness, my goal was to make a very, very simple framework, something that's super easy to remember, but if you explore it and work with it and deal with it, that you start to see that it really fits into so many different areas of the life. Because if I gave you a list of 50 different things, here, do all this, first of all, you would throw it away. And even if you kept it, you'd have to refer back to the list. Oh, this is number 32. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. It's not going to work. So I worked down and I whittled them down to only 5 things, and I created a mnemonic for it, a memory device. And that memory device, there are the 5 keys to greatness, and the memory device is the word great, G-R-E-A-T. And so the 5 keys to greatness are to give or to provide, a reason or a purpose, to engage or presence, A for amazing or positivity, it's all up here, and T for tenacity, persistence. We're going to do a quick overview of each one of the keys today, but there's not quite enough time to do a full treatment of them, and I do have a book coming out about the 5 keys to greatness soon. I will drop a link on the chat at one point, and the link to know is just 5keystoGreatness.com/book. You can order it, you can pre-order it. But you don't necessarily need to order the book. The main thing is to remember what the 5 keys are, and then to just think about each one of the keys and how it integrates with your life, and how, if you're not so strong in it, you can get a little bit stronger at that particular key, and how you can use those keys, how you can use those thoughts to elevate your life and your leadership style. Because these are keys that can really be applied to so many different areas of our life. You can use it to elevate your life, but you can also apply it to how you lead. And we're going to talk about a little bit of both of those. So the first key is to give, to provide. I like to say giving is living. When you give of yourself, of your time, of your money to the people around you, to your family, to your friends, to your coworkers, to the people you lead, everybody gets elevated because of it. Everybody gains because of it. And by the way, you usually get more than you give. Everybody knows this. We all know it. You've given stuff before. You've given charity. You've helped somebody out. You've done a little bit of chesed. You've done something. We all know it. But we often find it hard to integrate it and to put it into our lives and to allow it to be a part of our lives. So the more that we focus on, okay, how can I give? How can I open up this part of my life? The better off we are. And this applies both in your own life and in your leadership style. So many of the people that you're leading could use some of your help, or even just you noticing that they need help and assigning somebody else to help them, right? As a leader, you can focus on this. You can give somebody a listening ear. You can give people some additional slack. Maybe they need additional strictness. You can give them some help. There's so many ways you can integrate giving into your leadership style. Do you remember any time in your own life when you bent over backwards and you did something amazing for somebody? You were on cloud 9 for the rest of the day, weren't you? Maybe even the rest of the week. Giving elevates us in so many ways. So important. And it's important to remember, it doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be a huge grand gesture. Think of a little 4-year-old kid going out into the lawn and finding a dandelion and picking it up, saying, "Mommy, I got you this flower." It can be simple. The important thing is that you're giving to people. Anne Frank, the girl from the Second World War who wrote the diary, just in case you don't know, said, "No one has ever become poor by giving." The second key is a reason, a purpose, to find a reason, to find a purpose. And I like to tell people to find a reason or a purpose in your work life and find a reason or a purpose in your home life, because these are such large aspects of our life. If you try and find one unifying purpose for both, it may get a little bit harder. You may not be able to find it. But the more that we're able to focus on a purpose, on a reason for doing things, the more that we gain, the more that we find that we get fulfillment out of life, enjoyment out of life. Work, finding a purpose in work, it's usually a little bit easier. You know, if you work for a caterer, then, you know, no matter what you do, administration, waiting, whatever you do, cooking, you're giving people the event of their lives. There's always a way to find a purpose. And if you're struggling to find a purpose at work, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, send me an email and say, "Hey, this is what I do. I'm trying to find a purpose," and I'll work with you. But Finding a purpose in your work, finding a reason to go to work, finding the larger purpose, so important. And as a leader, it's your responsibility to communicate this to the people around you so that they are in no question about what the main purpose of what you're doing is. And to make money, it doesn't really work. It'll work for some people, but for the vast majority of people, it really won't work. So just try and find a deeper purpose, a deeper meaning to what you're doing, and it'll elevate everybody, even the back end bookkeeper who barely even talks to people, right? Well, the admin staff, it'll elevate what they're doing. They go into work every single day to accomplish that mission that you've described to them. For your home life, try to find that one thing that's a common theme in everything that you do. And I do have an exercise up online. You can ask me later. I'll drop the link. But the important thing is to remember, don't worry if you're wrong. Don't stress about picking something like it has to be perfect, it has to be right, or anything. Pick something, move forward with it, and if you pick the wrong thing, just realign, just change it. That's not to say you should be changing it every single week, but it is to say that if you pick something, you start working towards it, you'll start to see if it really fits in with your life or with your work. And if it doesn't, change it. We're dynamic beings. We're human, right? We adjust. If you look at a human over their life, there are many, many different people over the course of their lives. That's normal. That's what we do. So just remember, this is your life. You're not a character in a novel, and you're dynamic, and you can change. So feel free to change if you need to. The third key is called engage, or to be more present. None of us want to wake up and realize that our entire life has disappeared and we were barely there to experience it. Right? We get busy. We're way too busy with what's going on, and we just don't notice the things going on around us, but that's because we're not engaged. We're not present in the present moment. We've got to forget about the past. We've got to forget about the future. We've got to focus only on the present. We've got to be in the moment. Now, this is not to say that you should never plan for the future. And it's not to say that you should never look back at the past and say, well, could I have done that differently? The idea is to do it very limited, to not ruminate over these things, and to focus as much as possible on the present. What's going on in front of you right now? Nobody here would be appreciating it if I was talking to you, but also doing 5 other things at the same time. I am here. That's it. As a leader also, you have to be there. How do you think somebody who works for you is going to feel if you're half distracted all the time on the phone? Oh, yeah, well, what were you saying? They're not going to feel like you're leading them. They're like, what's the deal? I'm not important enough for a couple minutes? Try and put the phone down when you talk to people. Try and talk to people face to face. We all gain from it, right? And being more present in the present moment, this has actually 2 aspects. There's one aspect of the personal, right? Within yourself. You have to be more present with yourself. Give yourself that time for quiet reflection. And it's also got an aspect of the social, being more present with people around you and the people that you work with, the people who work for you, and the people you're trying to lead. I actually, a long time ago, I had a boss. Every single time you would try and talk to him about something, anybody, try and talk to him about something, I don't have time for this. 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 How do you think that makes the people who work for him feel? I don't have time for this. Probably not very good, right? You're my leader, or I thought you were. I'm not the most important thing in your life right now. Granted, there's other important things, but I'm sitting here and I'm trying to resolve a problem with you. I'm not the most important thing in your life. Okay. And that causes the people that you're leading to not feel valued. So be more present. Give people the time of day and put away the distractions and just focus. So you're able to have that moment with people, that moment that elevates all of us and helps us all get along and be connected. One thing also I will say, and this is part of presence, is remember to play. Dr. Abraham Maslow, the father of the hierarchy of needs, he says almost all creativity involves purposeful play. And as business leaders, as people working in all this, we forget to play a lot of times. And that doesn't mean necessarily playing small things that children will play with. There's many different ways to play. Even wordplay can be a play, can be a way of playing. But remember to integrate play with your life. You'll benefit from it. The next key is A, for amazing, or positivity. We've got to bring this positivity and infuse it into our life so that we gain from it, right? Think about it. Negativity, it closes us up. It shuts us down. It limits our possibility. But positivity, it opens us up. It starts us up and it broadens our possibilities to the point that we could do anything. Have you ever worked for a negative or a toxic boss? I don't think you liked it. And people working for any one of us, they would not appreciate negativity either. We have to bring that positivity to our work life, to our home life, show the people that we're leading at work and at home what it means to infuse our life with a positive outlook, right? You got to find the positivity. You got to focus on the good things all around you. Charles Swindoll said, life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. Think about a camera, right? A DSLR. The cameraman, he sees a different shot. He takes the lens off and he changes it. It's all about changing that lens. Take off that negativity lens, put on that positivity lens. You can change your life. The fifth and last key is tenacity or persistence. The world is literally moved forward by those who are persistent, by those who keep their eye on the prize and keep moving forward. Mountains are conquered by the people who are persistent. Shlomo Melech even wrote, 7 times the tzaddik falls, and yet he rises again. It's not about the amount of times you fall or fail or anything. It's about whether you get up the next time. It's about whether you bring yourself back to the project and keep on going. That's what it's all about. That's what makes the difference between the people who just don't make it and the people who do. And as a leader, this is one trait that you can exemplify time over and over again. Time in, time out, day in, day out. You can just bring it to the table and show people we are persistent. We keep on going no matter what. We keep moving forward. So both for you and for the people you're leading, when everything inside is saying, just stop, just give up, forget it, it doesn't matter. That's the moment. You reach deep in within yourself and you bring it out. And you say, no way, I'm going to keep moving forward. So the 5 keys that we just spoke about, they're not necessarily secrets, right? I'm sure you've come across some of these ideas at different points in your life. But the idea is, as an integrated system, as a framework, there's something that you can quickly and easily apply to your life and elevate yourself and the people around you. Elevate those you lead. So remember, great, give, reason, engage, amazing, tenacity. And apply them to your life. There's an ancient Chinese proverb, be careful of your thoughts, for your thoughts become your words. Be careful of your words, for your words become your actions. Be careful of your actions, for your actions become your habits. Be careful of your habits, because your habits become your character. And be careful of your character, because your character becomes your destiny. So go, fly, find your thoughts, find your words, find your destiny, find that greatness within, and then lead others there with you. Thank you. Did anybody have any questions? Somebody asked about the website. I'm just writing it up right now. So Judy Elias asked, what do you think is the most important of the 5 keys for success? They're all so important. If you wanted to focus on one for right now to the exclusion of all the others, I would focus on either a reason or persistence. Because if you have the reason, a lot of other things will follow. Or if you're persistent with whatever it is you're trying to do, a lot of the other things will just get in there and help you along the way. But try to develop at least a little bit the other keys, even if you're going to only focus on one. Oops. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? We've got plenty of time for questions. I made sure to leave that. Confidence. What do you mean, JJ? What about confidence? Confidence is important, always important, but in what aspect? I'm just going to riff on this a little bit. Hopefully you can clarify a little bit what you mean, JJ. But confidence is important. It brings to the table. So if you want to fit it into one of the keys, you can fit it into presence, right? You need to be more present in the present moment. So part of that means being confident. If you are diminutive and you can't bring yourself up to have that conversation with people, to interact with people, then you're not going to be able to move forward. But confidence is something I would say also about confidence. Try to fake it before you make it if you don't feel like you have it, because I will tell you, nobody is fully as confident as they say, right? You ever go to a new event and everybody's standing around on the sides like a little bit nervous and everything? They're just as nervous to meet a new person as you are. So if you walk up to them confident, say, hey, my name is Ari Gunzburg, how are you? What's your name? They just appreciate the fact that you're now talking to them, right? Crack one small joke, just, get in, and you may be as nervous as anything, shaking. They won't be able to tell, right? I've stood in front of rooms and done things. This is a long time ago, but I've stood in front of rooms and did public speaking type things that I had no idea what I was doing. And I got up to the front of the room and literally my legs were shaking in my pants. You couldn't tell because people can't tell these things. You experience it. You experience the voice shaking and all these other things going on. People can't tell. So just fake it until you can make it. So JJ's saying the ingredients, passion and action. And so JJ's bringing up the idea that confidence is important for all 5 keys as well. And I don't disagree. My goal with the system was to try and make it as simple to remember as possible. And the truth is that if somebody is lacking confidence severely, they probably have some things to work through before they can really start to apply the 5 keys to greatness, unless they are working on it together. Confidence is an important aspect of life. JJ, thank you very much for that addition. That's great. Anybody else have any questions? I'm checking the questions tab and the chat if you have any thoughts. I really appreciate everybody coming out. Thank you so much. Coming out. For pulling up your computer and watching. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? All right, guys, I know that there are 11 o'clock speeches and stuff. If anybody wants to stick around and ask a question, feel free to do so. If not, I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast shortly. And this way, I believe I can still be in the chat room, but I'm going to stop the broadcast. Thank you so much for coming out. I appreciate it. And we'll catch you next time.